Hi, everyone. I'm Diane Macedo. We're coming on the air with breaking news. The Supreme Court has just issued a ruling on the NCAA and compensation for college athletes. The High Court has ruled the NCAA was violating antitrust law by capping what student athletes can receive by way of education-related gifts and benefits. The NCAA and its biggest athletic conferences wanted the justices to overturn a ruling abolishing the limits, saying it would erode the amateur nature of college sports and open the door to pay for play. But athletes argued the rules unfairly suppress their ability to be rewarded for valuable skills and ability.
NIL. Name, image, likeness. If you're a sports fan and you haven't been living under a rock, you've heard of NIL. Or maybe you've seen the commercials.
Why is Stetson Bennett actually delivering our mail?
That's who you are.
I deliver. That's what I do.
You replace me with star quarterback Bryce Young?
He could never replace you.
Here's your Dr. Pepper Mom. Mom?
It's just a silly nickname.
You came up with dad for me. Here you go, kid.
Or maybe you've heard about the NIL if you're one of the many athletes who is making a killing off of their likeness in social media, such as Libby Dunn or the Cavender twins, who were just recently in conflict with the NCAA for receiving impermissible benefits from a coach, a meal. But let's look at schools all across the country, including UNT, who have donor groups who are paying student athletes a range of money from a couple $1,000s to upwards of hundreds of $1,000s to attend these schools. If a donor group had paid for the Cavender twins' meals, would it be an issue? No. Let's not kid ourselves. Colleges have always paid athletes to attend their schools. NIL just makes it legal through donor groups, which is fantastic for the athletes to be able to be paid to participate in the sport that they love. Though this raises the question, are they making money off of their name, image, and likeness, or on donors who want the schools to do well athletically? The water is murky on NIL as it is so new. There's not a lot of agreement on what is and isn't permissible. So let's talk to some people and see if we can get a better grasp on the pros and the cons of this new era of collegiate sports, the NIL era.
July 1st, 2021 marks the date that NIL finally was approved to allow athletes to profit from their name, image, and likeness at the college level. As television ratings, media coverage, and sport interest increases, so has the revenue. This raises the question, why can't some of this revenue go towards the athletes through NIL? College sports is no stranger to paying large sums of money to coaching positions. For example, Nick Saban, the Alabama football coach, earned over $7 million per year, and Ohio State's football coach, Urban Meyer, earned over $5 million, including other incentives. Since college athletes are considered student or amateur athletes, colleges have used this notion to stifle the ability for college athletes to profit from their play. After the implementation of NIL, college athletes, after the first year, finally saw the value they were looking for in compensation for their athletic play. The FLLR's data shows the average transaction value for athletes grew by 80% from the first month to over a year later. It is also estimated that $917 million was earned by college athletes through NIL in the first year, and this is predicted to increase to over $1.1 billion for the following year. The average value of NIL transactions was around $1,800, and for Power 5 schools, this increased to over $2,100. The table shown portrays the top 5 transaction types college athletes make, with autographs on top, generating an average value of $10,000, and at the lower end, giving camps and lessons, still generating over $800. The following table shows the top 5 sports in Power 5 NIL transactions, with football and basketball at first and second respectively, and women's basketball at number 5. As for non-Power 5 NIL athletes, basketball leads the way, while women's basketball moves up to 3rd, and golf coming in now in the top 5. From these statistics, one can see NIL is finally giving the college athletes the compensation they've deserved for so long.
Even though NIL provides a lot of opportunities for collegiate athletes and programs, there are ways in which that there are concerns that come with these new NIL regulations. Among these are disadvantages for small schools. Schools with smaller brand recognition and smaller budgets can be at a disadvantage when it comes to NIL because they won't be able to leverage the opportunity to pay these players as much, leaving smaller schools at a disadvantage when it comes to bringing in talent because they can't offer players the same amount that other schools can offer. It could also be a distraction from academics. NIL deals can be really time-consuming obligations depending on what the deal entails. It could be photo shoots, it could be all types of things that are just piled on top of an already hectic schedule for a collegiate athlete. And that can be really damaging and could also affect their academic performance. There could be inequities among athletes, and there will be inequities among athletes. Not all athletes will have the same opportunities to profit from NIL, and the reasoning for that can be not playing a certain sport, not having a certain social media following, and it's not all just completely merit-based on how good you are as an athlete. There's a marketing component to it that brings with it a lot more conversations about exploitations and other things like that, of that nature. There's impact on team dynamics as well. The pursuit of individual NIL opportunities or goals might add a new aspect to collegiate sports that hasn't always necessarily been there whenever it's open season to chase these NIL deals and financial opportunities, if you will. There's also could be potential for abuse. The newness of NIL regulations and the lack of clear guidelines leads a lot of gray area for people that in organizations to do things that down the line will get them in trouble. And that might not be the best interest of the athlete and the organization at hand.
NIL deals have had a lot of positive aspects on athletes. Athletes are now able to reach limits that they never thought they could reach. Budgeting money is one important aspect and positive aspect that the rule has brought. Athletes are now getting compensation and money for their play and for helping the brand grow. This also helps athletes learn how to budget their money and where to provide their money and where to spend it. This is a task that is hard to learn and that everyone needs to learn, and that is a big thing once you graduate college. A lot of athletes and even college students in general struggle with this, so that it is important that athletes are learning this at such a young age. As well as this, athletes are not worried about paying for school anymore. With the money and learning how to budget their money, they are able to budget their money towards schooling and towards classes. This is helping the athlete focus on their play rather than how they could pay for school and how they are going to end up paying for their classes. Another positive aspect that this rule has brought is acknowledging the athletes for their play. Before this rule, a lot of athletes were not being acknowledged for their play. They were just kind of playing and no one was really paying attention. But now, companies are able to reach out to these players that they find are very good at their sport or have a very good following, and they are able to take them under their wing, give them some money, and help them budget it.
So, as you can see, there are pros and cons of NIL, and we'll let you decide what your opinion on it is. Due to time constraints, we were not able to include 2 interviews that we did. One with Maia's sister Michaela, who plays softball at OSU, and the other with my brother Brady, who runs track and cross country at Harding University. Though they are both college athletes, they are on opposing sides on belief in NIL. Michaela thinks it's an amazing opportunity for collegiate athletes to make their own path and money off themselves. Brady thinks it's a way for rich schools to get richer, and that it will cause problems in locker rooms, universities, and in the NCAA as a whole. The thing is, they may both be right. NIL is perched precariously on the throne of collegiate sports, and even researchers and experts are divided on what this new landscape will look like. And though the future is uncertain for schools and athletes, there is one thing we can say with absolute certainty. We are in a new era of collegiate sport, the NIL era.